We have been 5 of us, 5 children, mother and father. We lived a little village, and I come from the farm. And I've been going to school in a town, which was, there was till 12 years old, and then I went to a grammar school in a different place, which was Radziechów.
Do you still have very clear memories of your childhood in Poland?
I have got a very clear memory, and now all days I'm often thinking about it, how it was. I've been there in 1993, but there is nothing left. All the houses, everything was demolished. There was just fields of things. But a little town, and my school was still standing there. And it was very nice to go and see those places.
So you don't still have family in Poland now then, Miss Wanda?
Yes. I have got a not very close family, because all my family, with my grandfather and his brothers who lived in that village, we all been taken to Russian prison camp in 10th of February 1940. But the family who didn't live with us, like only one of my auntie, that's the only family, one of my aunt, who lived somewhere else, and she wasn't taken to Russia. And now she had 3 children, and I've got contact with her children and grandchildren. And I've been several times to see them. They live in Poland, in Krynica, near mountain.
You say that you were taken to Siberia in Russia. Was this when the Russians occupied the eastern part of Poland?
That's correct. On the 17th of September 1923, the Russian army came to Poland, and they came, and the Christmas time was spent at home, but 10th of February 1940, the Russian soldier came to our house and told us, "You've got half an hour to pack, and we'll take you to the train." The station was about 1.5 kilometers from our house where we lived, and we've been put to those wagons and taken to Russia. We've been traveling about 6 weeks. Eventually we came to Kotwas in Russia on the river Dvina. But while we've been traveling, people were ill, or even if they were dying in a train, they haven't stopped. They just stopped the train and throw the body outside to the snow. And then when we came to Kotwas, we dismounted from the train and went to the sledges and been driven on the river Dvina on the sledges for 3 days. And then from time to time there was a barracks built, and so many people been dropped that. And we've been dropped in a little sort of settlement barracks which called Permohorie, and Obłaść Archangelsk. And we've been everybody had to work there, and the time there was terrible. I don't know if you want me to say anything more about what was our life there or not.
Well, I would imagine that your life was very hard, even if it's related just simply to the climate.
Yes, it was very cold, 38 to 35 frost in the winter, and that was hardly anything to eat. They gave us, those who work, 1 kilogram of bread, which was very hard, heavy bread, and those who didn't work, only 1 slice, which was 200 grams. And if we had brought something with us, we could just probably cook something like a flour, so we can boil the water and put some flour and thicken it, and providing is for a food. There was no sugar at all. There was very hard to get even salt, but that's what we got. And we had to work.
How long did you remain in Russia, Miss Wanda?
It was till 1941, about September. I believe that was the time when the Hitler started fighting with Russia. And then we've been told that we are free, that we can do whatever we like, but we were not helped. There was no information what's going on. And my father left the little settlement on the Dwina and went to live in a cohouse, in a farm, across the river. And then from there, I got somebody who used to bring the food to the settlement on the little boat, river boat. And this young man on this river boat, I asked him if he can take me to Kotwas to find out what was happening. And with my friend, who was also my age, about 18, we went to Kotwas and we've seen that the Polish soldiers there, and then inform us that the Polish army is formed at the south of Russia, which is Tashkent. And we could go whatever we want. We have to pay, sell everything to get us onto train. And everybody went on their own. Nobody said anything to us and stop us, but nobody helped us. But I must say that authority in Russia, there was actually very bad to us to start with, but the people in Russia, they were very, very good. They helped us wherever they could, give us a little bit of bread or something so we could travel. And we got to the south of Russia, to Tashkent, where there was General Anders' army formed.
Did your father join the army?
My father did not join the army. General Anders was trying to get very quickly young people dressed and having them trained. And as soon as somebody of the family joined the army, they already been counted as the people who belong to the army. Then we have to look after them. And because the civil people have no provision, food and things like that. But the soldiers, the army had the provision. So all the soldiers had to have some part of food, not given, only to given to those civilian people who was camping around the army camps. So they can have some food. And my father didn't join till later on. When we moved from Russia through the Caspian Sea to Persia, which is Iran now, and all the civilian people came later after us. And that part, when I joined, I was 18, I joined the army, and I was already in uniform helping to receive those people. And then my father had to join, and my mother wouldn't like to stay alone with younger children. I was the oldest in the family. So I had to ask to be released to look after my mother and the younger children. But then my father was discharged because of the health thing, and I joined again. That was all happening in Tehran within about 2 or 3 months, so that wasn't very thing.
How was it that you made the move from Persia to the UK, Miss Wanda?
Now we trained and we went to Palestine, and then we had to go to Italy to fight the war. But in 1943, at the beginning of 43, British government appealed to our army in the Middle East that if somebody would like to join the Air Force, because after the Battle of Britain and all this fighting, the Air Force was very short of people. Yes. And I was one of them who volunteered to come to Air Force. And I must say something very funny. Somebody asked me on one of the interview, why did they change came from the army to the Air Force? What driven me there? And I just simply said, because the blue uniform is nicer to the khaki uniform, and that was a laugh. That's how I joined the Air Force and came to England in very end of 1943, beginning of 1944.
Were you stationed in England?
Yes, we stayed first. We came to, there was a lot of funny things I could tell you, I don't know if I should. We came to Liverpool. From Liverpool, we've been taken to North Berwick near Edinburgh in Scotland. We stayed there for about 6 weeks, and then we joined from there to Winslow near Manchester, where we've been changed to from the khaki uniform to the blue uniform, and had a training, and from there we've been posted to our post wherever we work. My first posting was 300 Polish Squadron Ziemia Mazowiecka, stationed Faldingor, Lincolnshire, and I worked there on the flying control.
Flight control?
Flight control, yes.
Did your family make the move with you?
No.
Mom and father? And...
No. My family moved with all the civilian people to Africa, and they've been in Rhodesia, in Africa. They only came to England when the war finished, which was in, I believe my family came in 1947 to England. And they've been in a camp, Melton Mowbray, not very far from Nottingham. They've been certainly in the camp. And later on, my father, my younger brother found a job, and my older brother, who also in Air Force, he found a job, and they helped to buy the house and bring mother and father to Nottingham when they lived in Nottingham.
And by this time, had you been demobbed as well?
Yes, I met my husband. He was he was an airman in a 300 squadron. He was the radio operator on the Lancaster. I met him, I married him, and when the war finished, we've been demobbed, and my daughter my husband still stay after the war finished. They've been staying in sort of Polish resettlement camp, living in the same station in uniform, still flying, but I lived when my daughter, when I was pregnant, I lived on the farm near Lincoln, Cockton Farm, that I visited there several times. It's not existing anymore. And when my husband was demobbed, every airman got £50 when they've been demobbed, and uniform, and I believe one civil clothes. And then we had to live somewhere, not in the camp. So three of other friends who got £50 each, they put £200 together, paid deposit for the house, which was both on my husband's name because he was married, the other men were single, and they lived with us for a whole year, paying £1 a week, bed and food, which was at that time £2 a week for accommodation like that. But they pay £1 and the other pound save, so the end of the year, the £50 that they put into it will be returned to them.
Was this in Nottingham?
In Nottingham, St. Anne's Districts, Bluebell Hill Road, and I had to cook for 4 men and 2 children. Meanwhile, my other daughter was born, and that was a 3-bedroom house, so we managed somewhere to live together. The furniture, when I moved there, we didn't have any money for the furniture, so the orange boxes serve us for chairs and for a table. And we survived like this. Everything was on ration. So you have to go to the market. There was Snayton Market not very far from wherever I live. So if you went on Saturday on the market, when the market was closing down about 4 or 5 o'clock, there was a lot of things that you want to sell, and they could sell cheaper because otherwise they would throw it away. And that was, that's how, only out of the ration what you could get is the dry beans and dry peas, and that was of the ration. And I'm sure the English people didn't know very much how to do with this, but we knew exactly what to do with this. We bowed those, soaked them, and cooked the soup and things like that, and that's how we survive.
At this period that you're describing now, were there many Polish people living in Nottingham then?
Yes, a lot of Polish people, because Nottingham was very lot of industry. First of all, the rag trade was very high. We produce everything here in Nottingham, and there was mines, and there was British Ceylonese, the thing, and that was also steel work. So there was such a lot of work in Nottingham. Everybody moved to Nottingham, so it was quite a lot of people in Nottingham.
So you think the reason Polish people settled here was the attraction of employment?
That's correct, attraction of
the proximity of the camps around
Yes,
Nottingham.
and the camps were around, but very soon those camps around Nottingham were cleared, because the people moved. When you get a job, you got a better house, and you had somebody, so they moved, so I never...
Was there a strong community spirit amongst the Polish people? Did they tend to socialise together and
Yes.
help each other?
Absolutely, there was such a strong feeling. Everybody tried to help each other, and of course, our priest from the Newton station, rail station Newton, came to our cathedral in Nottingham and asked the Bishop of Nottingham if they can have a mass there. And then, because when you get to somewhere and you're a Catholic, you don't know what the church is, nobody soon find out where a cathedral is.
Yes.
And we all went to the cathedral, and he organized, and he used to help us and tell us what's going on. And that's how we all got at the cathedral. And honestly, I have to say this, I had 2 little girls, and I came to this cathedral, and a lady approached me. I didn't know her, and she said, if you're looking for a work, I tell you something, go and learn how to machine, because you've got 2 little girls, you'll be able to dress them. And she said, I am a teacher from Poland, and I got this job at the Wisela, and I'm earning good money. And she told me, and I went to this, when I started to work, I went to the Wisela, got a job. I was just seamster. I didn't know even how to use the electric sewing machine, but I worked there for over 35 years, but I landed as the factory manageress and head of the production after all this work at the Wisela. Thanks to the lady who just approached me and said, this is the work. So that's how we help each other.
What sort of employment did your husband do in this family?
My husband started to do steel iron work here near Nottingham, but then again somebody worked at Hackney where they make a furniture. I forgot now the film also, and I say, come on, this is too hard as a steel worker, go to the, and he went to the factory where they make furniture, and he worked there right to the end of this fabric. We didn't change very much. We like to work in one factory that we know everything and get on and got a better job in a factory.
After people had been settled here for a while, did they start to look outside of their place of employment, looking to start businesses or open shops? Were people entrepreneurial?
Not as many as that. We had 2 shops, three Polish shops in Nottingham, but they were not so like it is, everybody's going to the business now. I think we were not so enterprise at that time, maybe with going through all those bad things, horrible things. We were holding to what we had. We were frightened, maybe frightened, to do something else, to move around if something goes wrong.
Was it possible at that time to get Polish food?
Yes, it was. Yes, those shops provides us with the Polish food. But Polish food for us, at that time, it didn't matter. because we went through so many different countries and to so many things in life. So as long as we were not hungry, that was quite satisfactory.
So through all the changes that you went through quite quickly, from leaving Poland, going to Russia, going to the Caspian,
Yes.
coming to Italy, coming to England, what impressions did you have of England when you first arrived, Miss Wanda, settling here?
Now that is something very funny that I must tell. When we've been coming to England from Middle East, we were in uniform. We've been told, look, you have to have a nice put hair and have to go to hairdressers. We even been given lipstick, so we have to have a lipstick and we have to have a makeup, because all the English ladies are tall, elegant, sophisticated and well dressed and so on. So of course we were just like that, shaking, coming to this country that everything is top of the world. Of course, arriving to Liverpool at 5 o'clock in the morning, what we see, the ship is there, we are taking off, and all these English ladies in an apron, in a curls on his head, and a scarf with a bucket and a mop, going cleaning the ship, which arrived, because it of course. So then we go there and we see all other people. The people we found out were exactly the same as everywhere else that we went through, all this country, Europe and Middle East, and that was the laugh, you know.
Not quite so elegant then.
No, the English ladies are very elegant and so on, but the way they prepare us that we have to have a good image. If the Polish girls are coming to England, they have to look tip-top. I must say that, but that was very good. And we found England very nice, very friendly people, very friendly.
You felt quite welcome here,
yes? Yes, I think so. We felt welcome, and it was very nice being here.
Was it difficult to find employment at that time, or was it relatively easy?
No, it wasn't difficult. You could get in everywhere. There was so much work. People are needed for work, and so there was no difficulty. That's why we could get on. Everybody soon got a house. We never could have any chance to live in a council house or anything. There was no such a thing, because the English people, British people were coming, were finished, coming home. They had to some live. So we had no chance as the foreign people to get anything like that. But that was good, because we done everything to have. So everybody, those who came here after the war, quickly had their own houses. Depends in all district, but they had houses, and there were no burden on this country at all, and we all been employed.
Amongst the people that you knew at the time, including yourself,
yes,
were there any Polish people who contemplated returning to Poland?
Very few, because there was one thing, maybe that was it, one of our airmen, high-class pilot, his mother was very ill, and he went to see his mother, and of course he was arrested, and he was put in the jail. He'd been in jail for 6 years, then he was the mob. So quickly there, when this gentleman went to Poland and he was arrested, then there was no way that anybody. I went to Poland with my daughters in 1961, but not many people, not men, but I could drive the car. And I always, you know, I done a lot of things that somebody probably wouldn't do. And I was not frightened, because they wouldn't arrest women. They didn't want the women in Poland. Why? To feed them in Iran, but they arrested the men. So not till about end of 60, people start going to Poland, but very reluctantly. Yes. You had to write a letter, you have to pay some money, so there's a lot of trouble. But I didn't have any trouble, because who cares about women and children? They didn't want.
But immediately after the war, it wasn't possible.
It was possible, but nobody wanted to go, because we didn't have a free Poland. there was Russia, there was Stalin who was ruling, and half of the Germany gone to the communist part. When we knew all about it, so if somebody wanted to go, yes, it could go, but no, nobody wanted to go to Russia. Most of us who came here, we've been through Russia. So how are we going back to Russia?
Yes.
It was impossible.
When you settled here and started to put down your roots here, did you have a growth of organisations, Polish organisations? Did you start to organise your lives?
Well, that was the first thing. We could not speak English so well, so we couldn't join very English organization, but we even didn't know how it is. So we had in Nottingham about 19 different organizations. I even couldn't quote you all in English how it was. And we belonged to all organizations because that was the way that we could get together. There was for young people, there was brownies, there was Girl Guides, Scouts, starting from the youngest. And that, of course, was a church. Very much, we needed a church. We used to go to cathedral for Mass, but we needed the church and we needed our own community. Our church, we couldn't, if we want to have a dance or something like that, we have to hire some hall and pay for this hall. So, of course, the main thing was collect the money. Nobody gives us any money. We had to collect it by ourselves. There was collection every month, probably. And we managed to collect enough money. And in 1953, which was very quick, we bought 2 Sherwood rice. It was just a big house, dwelling house, big house. We bought that house, and that was the first one it was. And then a few years later, the next house was for sale, maybe because there was just 2 houses and so on. So we managed to get, but that was very hard. We had to collect the money ourselves to buy the house. When we had those houses, we started to, there was a bar, people start coming for a beer, and there was a little restaurant. All this bring the money, and the people belong to organization. I paid the membership, so all the money been gathered together. We built a dance hall, and when the dance halls was built, that was going forward because the dancers brought the money. We were all young and danced, and the end we really built a church, which was absolutely, we've got very big.
So the church on Sherwood Rise was built by Polish people?
Yes, built by Polish people right from the scratch 32 years ago.
Yes.
And all by collecting the money from the Polish people who live in Nottingham. So talking about this, you know how many people should been here. I could not quote how many people around the Nottingham been here.
53 was quite soon after the war, wasn't it?
Very soon, and we built also, there was also a White Eagle Club that belongs to the Polish Air Force. But I must say here that we didn't have to collect the money because Royal Air Force Benevolent Fund gave us £3,000 loan without any catches, just 3,000, but we didn't have to pay any interest on it, nothing. And we bought this house on 9 Pelham Road, called it the White Eagle Club.
Was it Domlotnika?
Domlotnika, yes. Domlotnika, White Eagle Club. Domlotnika. Of course, a lot of Polish airmen married English ladies because young men wanted to marry. There wasn't very many Polish girls. If anybody been in the army in the Middle East. And of course there was connection, and the White Eagle Club was doing very well because all the English people came there. We have a lot of members. And so we had 2 clubs, and so we all been like being in our own ghetto, more or less, could you say. And when, I must say this because Royal Air Force Benevolent Fund is absolutely good for us. When we had to sell the house because there was less and less member and less people to run it,
Yes.
we had to sell it because it's no, you have to make a profit to keep something going. You don't have to sell it. And then we asked for a Royal Air Force Benevolent Fund for a deed to sell the house, the club. The Royal Air Force Benevolent Fund